watching a lesson on implementing print services. Now, similar to another lesson that we did on implementing file services, I will tell you that when it comes to print services, things have not changed a whole lot if you've worked with prior server environments. Okay, so to get things started, we are here on a member server in the Global Mantics domain. We have nymem1. And so we're going to go ahead and use this server to act as though it's our print server for the network. And the first thing we need to do is, well, we need to install a printer. And the place that we do this is from something called Devices and Printers. So I'm going to click the Start button on my keyboard, takes us into the Start screen, and I'm just going to type in the word print. And you'll notice no apps match my search. Why is that? Well, that's because there's no apps, but if you look under settings, there's 9 matches. If I click on that, the first one you'll see here is Devices and Printers. So go ahead and click on that, and this is where we can see all our devices and printers. This is actually the same thing that we had in previous versions of Windows Server. It's a little bit different how you get there. Now, if I want to install a printer, then I go ahead and click right here where it says Add a Printer. And the first thing is it's looking and says, well, I don't see any printer found, right? It kind of tries to do a little plug and play thing. It doesn't find it. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And I can choose to find a printer in the directory. Okay, so I can find a printer in Active Directory. That's one way that we can go ahead and install a printer. This would be a great thing to do if we were out on a client, is go ahead and do what's called publish our printers through Active Directory, and they can find them there. We can connect to a shared printer by name. So if we knew that there was another print server and I wanted to connect to it, I could enter it in here. I could connect to a network printer, or really I should say a network print device, right? The physical printer that's out on our network. If it has an Ethernet card and it has an IP address on our network, I can connect to it that way. This is probably the most typical way in today's world. I'm not going to do it here because I don't have an actual physical printer to connect to here. Okay, so I'm just showing you hypothetically as though I had a physical print device here in the office. I could also do it via Bluetooth or wireless. And then the last choice here, which is what we're going to do, is add a local printer using manual settings. So I'm going to click Next. And I need to determine what port this printer is connected to. You'll see we have a choice of ports that we can connect to. I'm going to do the LPT1 port. This is the good old-fashioned parallel port that we used to connect our printers to. This is not how things would typically be done. Again, typically we would be creating a TCP/IP port and connecting to a printer that is connected to the network, or we would connect via a USB port, which again, I don't have here because, well, I don't really have a printer plugged into the USB port on this particular computer. But that would be more of how things would work in today's world. The reason I'm going to select LPT port is so that I can demonstrate this for you. Okay, just so you understand exactly what's going on here. So we're going to take the LPT1 port, click Next. Now I need to go ahead and install a printer driver. Now this is a small piece of software, right? This is what the driver is a piece of software that tells the operating system how to communicate with the physical device. Now again, since this is just hypothetical, right? I don't have an actual printer here. I'm going to select HP. And let's just go ahead. Here's one that I've played with before. It actually went right to it. The HP LaserJet 4300. There's no specific reason I'm picking this one. It's just one that I happen to know that if I put it in there, it works. Again, because there's no physical print device hooked up here. In the old days, I used to do the HP LaserJet 4. That was a very standard one. And in the older days, I'd even do the HP LaserJet 3 because it was a very standard driver that would work on a lot of different printers. So I'm going to take this driver, and I'm going to click Next. Oh, by the way, before I do, in the real world, if I did not see the manufacturer of the printer that I have on this list, and or if I didn't see the specific model on this list here, then what I would do is I would go ahead and I would click Have Disk, and then I would browse to the files that I either downloaded off the internet or maybe the disk that I put in that came with the printer, and I would do it that way.
Okay, but since we're going to do a made-up driver that is built into the system, I'll just click Next. Then we give the printer a name. Now here's that big long name, HP LaserJet 4200. Yeah, let's just call this Demo HP Printer. How about that? Okay, we're just going to call it that, just so we know what it is. I'll click Next. It installs the printer. I can choose whether I want to share this printer or not. If I do not share it, then that means it's only going to be accessible to this machine itself. Or I can share it, which kind of makes this computer a print server, which is what our goal was here. So we'll just go ahead and give it a share name of Demo HP Printer. That's fine. That's a good name to understand what this printer is. Click Next. I can choose whether I want this to be my default printer. Since I have no other printer, I will leave it as my default. And then I could print a test page. Now, again, in the real world, you would typically print a test page. That's the best way to confirm that you've installed this printer correctly and the computer is able to communicate successfully with the print device. Since I don't have a print device, and this is hypothetical, I am not going to print a test page because it'll go off into Never Never Land or it'll give me an error. So I'm going to click Finish. And you'll notice that I now have my Demo HP printer. Now, if I right-click on this particular printer, and I go to, you want to be careful, not the properties, but right here, the printer properties, there's a couple things that I want to show you. One, this is a great place where you can print another test page. Okay, so if you're having problems with this printer, it's a great way to test it. But if I come over here to the Security tab, I want to show you that we have permissions on this printer, just like we have permissions on files and folders. We have an access control list of users and groups, and then we have our allow and deny list to either be able to print to the printer, right, which means just that. If you have print permission, you could print documents to this particular printer, and you also can manage your own documents. So if you sent the print document or the print job to the printer, you could also delete it, but only your own. Whereas if I go down here to where it says Manage Documents, that means that I now can manage not only my own documents, but everybody's documents. So I can actually manage anybody and everybody. I can reorder print jobs or cancel them or whatever I want to do. And then manage this printer is the full control of printing. And I will tell you that this is something that Microsoft historically, if you're looking to test, I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but historically, they used to like to trip you up on the test by saying, hey, if you want to give full control to a certain group of this printer, what permission would you give? And one of the multiple choice answers will be full control, which of course would be the wrong answer because there is no full control listed here. Only manage this printer. That is the full control of printing. Now, another thing I want to show you real quick here, let me go ahead and cancel out of this window. And I want to show you that if I come in this window here, if you come up to the top, there's Print Server Properties. If I click on these Print Server Properties and I go to the Drivers tab, this is where I can see all the various drivers that are available and have been installed on this print server. Now, there's not a whole lot that I want you to worry about here. For the most part, the drivers get installed when you install the printers, and they join the pool here. And it's very rare that you'd have to come in here and mess with these drivers. But I want to point something out to you, and that is I want you to see that these drivers that are installed are listed as either Type 4 or Type 3. And this is something new to Windows Server 2012, the support for a Type 4 driver. Now, I'm not really overly worried about you understanding the intricacies of how a Type 3 or a Type 4 driver works. But what's very cool is in the old days, with Type 3 drivers, we had to have a unique driver for each individual print device that was out there. So for every make and model of printer that was out there, you had to have a different driver. And it could get quite cluttered. Now we have streamlined this a little bit, recognizing that there are a lot of printers out there that have very similar features and functionality. And so the Type 4 drivers are much more flexible and much more easily distributable. That's another key feature. The distribution of these drivers out to the clients. You can actually have clients getting these drivers from Windows Update and things like that, rather than having to get it from the server. With these Type 4 drivers, we have the ability to have multiple print devices all functioning on the same driver. Okay, so again, don't worry yourself about this, but I just wanted you to understand that. Let me cancel out of here. And the next thing that I want to show you is something called printer priorities. Now, this is where you have a single print device, right? You have the one physical print device, but you want to give different groups of users different levels of priority to that device, right? If you have different users and they're all sending jobs to the same print device, whose jobs are going to print first? That's what these priorities are. So what you have the ability to do, and just to fully show how this works, I'm going to actually add another printer. Just go through the same wizard real fast here. We're going to actually point to the same port. We're going to point to that same LPT1 port. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a separate logical printer pointing to the same physical print device, which means we're going to use the same driver and everything. And I can choose to use that same driver. That's fine. Next. And I'm going to say demo HP printer 2. And that's fine. We can share it. We don't need this to be the default printer. Finish. So now you might be thinking to yourself, hey, I just added that second printer. Where is it? Right? I only see the one. Well, notice that when I right-click on this printer now, when I go to printer properties, I have demo HP printer or demo HP printer 2, right? Because there are two printers, two logical printers pointing to the same print device. If I go to the properties of the demo HP printer, the original one, and we go to the advanced tab, you will see that I have a priority setting. Now this priority setting is anywhere from 1 to 99, and it's nothing more than a relative priority against any other printers that maybe have a priority setting. So if we go ahead and say that this is a printer that, let's go ahead and say that the sales users, let's give them permissions to this one. I'll do that in a minute, but we're going to say that these sales users, they need to get their stuff printed out right away. So I'm going to give them a high priority. I'm going to actually give them a priority of 99. And I'm going to click OK. Now to take this a step further, let me go back into these printer properties for the demo HP printer. And let's go to security. And let's add sales. There's our sales users. Okay. We're going to say that the sales users have the right to go ahead and print to this printer. And everyone else, we're actually going to remove them. Okay. So yeah, we still have administrators and creator, but let's stick with the sales users. Sales users can print to the demo HP printer. If I now go into the print properties of demo HP printer 2, and let's first go to security, and let's remove everyone, and let's add John Smith, right? Let's take John, we'll take John Smith. We're going to give John Smith permissions to print to this printer. And we're going to say that John Smith, he prints out these big, long reports, but it's not of high priority. And we don't want the other sales users to be interrupted because John is printing these big reports. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the advanced tab of this printer and give it a low priority. And it already has one. We'll take the built-in priority of 1. We'll say it's low priority. What we've just done is we've made it that the same physical print device that's on our LPT1 port has 2, and we can see the 2 right here, 2 logical printers. And then one of those logical printers, permissions have been given to the sales users. They're going to print to that one. And the other one, we've given permission to John Smith, so he can only print to that one. And we said that the printer, the logical printer that the sales users use, is of high priority, and the one that John can use is of low priority. What this means is that if John is trying to print and the sales users are trying to print, the sales users' jobs are going to come out first. And that's how priorities work. Now there is something else which is the opposite. Okay, and the opposite is something called printer pooling. Now here's why I mean opposite. Well, I just showed you how to use priorities, which is where you have multiple logical printers pointing to the same physical print device. Printer pooling is where you have multiple print devices, but only one logical printer. So if I were to take this printer, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's start off by, I'm going to delete a print queue. I'm going to delete that demo HP printer too. Yes, I'm sure I want to delete it. Okay, now I just have that one printer now. I have only one logical printer, but if I had multiple physical devices, I could go into the properties of this particular printer, go to the ports tab, and you'll see that I have all my various ports that this printer could be connected to. And you'll notice that even though they're checkboxes, if you click one, the other goes away. Right? I can only be connected to one particular port. Unless I check this box down here that says enable printer pooling. By checking that box, that means I now can say that I'm connected to multiple ports, which means in this example, I might have 3 physical print devices, one plugged into LPT1, one plugged into LPT2, one plugged into LPT3. Again, real world, it's going to be more likely that you're going to have a series of TCP/IP ports, right? All the different IP addresses that those printers are on. So picture this. You have a call center, and in that call center, you have a wall of printers. You want people in the call center to all be able to just print to one place, right? Logically, they're just going to print to one place. But one physical printer might not be enough for everyone who's printing. So you have this wall of printers. What's going to happen with printer pooling is you have the one logical printer, right? And I'm just go ahead and click OK. You have this one logical demo HP printer. And by the way, I'm getting errors now because of, good, it figured it out. Getting errors because I'm pointing to all these ports that don't even exist. But this one printer, logical printer, is connected to this whole wall of physical print devices. And when users send a job to this printer, it will then send it to whatever device is most readily available. So as a user in that call center, I'm just going to walk over to the wall of printers, and whichever one has my printout, I'll grab it off. Okay, so that's how printer pooling works. Now, there is one last thing that I want to show you here. Let me go ahead and close out of devices and printers. And that's something that is new to Windows Server 2012, and it's called Branch Office Direct Printing. Now, this is something that is designed to reduce the network costs for organizations that have centralized their Windows Server roles. Okay, so if you have a branch office, but the servers, or in this case we'll say the print servers, are let's say in a main office, what we can do is we can enable this thing called Branch Office Direct Printing, where the Windows clients will get information from the print server, but have the ability to send their print jobs directly to the printer. Okay, so you picture you got the client out in the branch office, you got the physical print device out in the branch office, but the print server who's managing all the jobs, it's in some main office. Well, that's kind of, not very efficient because now the clients have to communicate their jobs, the entire print job, all the way across the WAN link, all the way out to the main office, to the print server, who will then send the job all the way back across the WAN link over to the actual print device. With Branch Office Direct Printing, now you get information about the printer from the main office, from the print server, but the actual print jobs will be sent directly to the print device out in the branch office. The other advantage is that a user can print even if the print server is not available. Maybe like the WAN link has gone down. You'll still be able to print as long as you've gotten that information about the printer from the print server originally. Now, how do we do this? Well, we need to go into Server Manager. In Server Manager, we need to be able to go ahead and go into Print Management. Now, you'll see here that Print Management is not present, and that's because there is a role that I need to add to this particular server. So I'm just doing our typical add roles. Everything I click through is just the very typical. We've done this a bunch of times in this course. But right here, when we get to the actual role that we're going to add, we're going to say Print and Document Services. There's additional features it wants. I'll click Add Features. I'm going to click Next, Next, Next. And we want to go ahead and be a print server. Next, and install. Okay, so now it's going to officially make us an actual print server. So this will take just a moment to complete the installation, and we'll go ahead and speed this up for you through the magic of video editing. Okay, the installation has succeeded, so I'm now a print server. I'm going to go ahead and close this window. So now that we've made this into a print server, here in Server Manager, I'm going to come up to the Tools menu, and I'm going to go to Print Management. In Print Management, we're going to go ahead and expand our print servers. Here you'll see New York Mem 1, right, because we made this into a print server. So we're going to expand that. And then here you'll see our printers, so we're going to go ahead and expand that, or click on that. And then over here we have our demo HP printer. I can right-click on it, and I can enable Branch Office Direct Printing. Okay, so yes, I know that was a fairly long process to go ahead and enable this particular feature, but it's a feature that's pretty well worth it. I mean, it's going to save you on a lot of needless over-the-WAN bandwidth. Okay, and it's not so much that bandwidth costs a lot now. It's just the issue of reliability and the speed of sending a job all the way across that WAN and all the way back again. Okay, so that's how we would go ahead and do that really cool new feature called Branch Office Direct Printing. And that's pretty much how you manage your network printers in Windows Server 2012.
So that's it. That's printing. That's how it works in Windows Server 2012. Okay, now there is a little bit more to know when we get deep into enterprise environments and setting up all sorts of various printing banks within the enterprise. But here's what I'm going to tell you. It's not that much more sophisticated. It's basically taking what we learned in this lesson and kind of compartmentalizing it to bring it all into an enterprise environment. So that's all I got for you when it comes to print services. I'll see you in the next lesson.